Now, I don't know about you, but when I hear the word hypnotist, I always think of someone going, look me in the eyes, not around the eyes, look me in the eyes, or maybe going, you're feeling very sleepy, drift away, very, very sleepy. Is it actually like that? Well, my guest today on the show is Robert Temple. He knows all about it, as he is a hypnotist. And his brilliant show is at the Tyne Theatre in Newcastle tomorrow. It's my pleasure to speak to Rob. He said that he didn't always want to be a hypnotist, you know?
Yeah, so originally my plan was always to be a magician. When I was a kid, I got a Paul Daniels magic set, and I was always that weird, nerdy, shy child who would never want to speak to anybody. And I saw a magician and thought this would be amazing. I managed to pester my dad into buying me a Paul Daniels magic set. He said no and bought me something else instead. And then I pestered my stepmom into buying me it a few days later, and she did. And that was it. From that moment on, everyone got to see magic tricks.
You see, a lot of us got Paul Daniels magic tricks, but only a few of us took the time to bother to master them, to read the instructions properly rather than just lose the bits and pieces over the weeks. You know, you obviously took it seriously.
Well, I think I probably went through 10 or 20 Paul Daniels magic sets because the bits did end up under the mattress, under the sofa and all over the place. So I got loads of incomplete sets. But yeah, so I think it was, for me, it was just a really good chance to kind of try and build confidence. And that was genuinely what it was. You know, I was terrified of everything. And it was a really good opportunity for me to have something to be good at, because I was rubbish at sports, you know, all of those things. It was just something I just got bitten by the bug, I suppose.
Is it true that you had very terrible stage fright at one of your first shows?
Yeah, so a couple of my early shows. One was for a troupe of brownies, so I would have been about 10, and I guess they would have been 7 or 8 or 9 or something, so you know, similar sort of age. And I had to do a magic show. My stepmom's friend ran this brownie troupe, so I stood there at the front and very nervously performed the tricks. And when I say perform, I mean held the props and did the moves.
Yeah.
And then my stepmom stood and did all the patter and the talking and stuff. And even at a small show in our house for the sort of the kids or the people who lived nearby, again, just sort of stood there silently, just miming the trick.
That's amazing. That's amazing. But you knew then that was the sort of thing you wanted to do.
I knew I wanted to perform. Yeah, there's this sort of, I think all entertainers have this weird craving for applause, and you know, and accept. Right on cue, and acceptance. So yeah, I knew I wanted to perform and make people laugh and feel good.
When you've got a great track record in magic, why then switch to hypnotism? So
I think magicians, there's lots of sort of what we call allied arts, things like juggling and ventriloquism and those sort of odd variety entertainments. And when I was in sort of the junior Northern Magic Circle and really investigating, you know, magic to its fullest extent, there were lots of other kids who started doing unicycling and juggling and ventriloquism and all these other things. And I saw a hypnotist when I was 14, and it struck me as, it might seem like a wildly different thing to the general public, but when you're in that entertainment phase, they're quite kind of aligned. And so I thought this would just be a good additional string to my bow. And lots of magicians have started to try and learn hypnosis in more recent years, but back in the day I thought actually this would be a really cool thing. And so I saw a hypnotist and I convinced my dad to pay him to teach me how to do it. And then that was that. And I did it side by side with magic for a couple of years alongside my A-levels. I was doing, you know, close-up magic for a wedding one night and then a hypnosis show in a pub the following night. And after a couple of years, I just thought, do you know what? When I wake up in the morning, I've got a magic gig. I'm sort of, oh no. When I wake up in the morning, I've got a hypnosis show. I was like, yes, this is it.
Really?
And so it just got to a point where I still love magic. You know, last night I was at a magic circle meeting. I still love it. I just decided to keep it as a hobby.
And the two can kind of go hand in hand. My guest today is hypnotist Robert Temple. I'm keen to ask you, I mean, I don't know if you even can, but can you learn? Could I learn to be a hypnotist? Stay with us here on BBC Newcastle, Radio for the North East.
I found a love for...
You look perfect. Looked all right on Gogglebox. Wasn't impressed by his music knowledge, but you can't have everything, can you? Ed Sheeran on BBC Newcastle Radio for the North East. My guest at the moment is hypnotist Robert Temple, who's appearing at Tyne Theatre, Newcastle tomorrow. So Rob's just told me how he started out by doing magic. How then did you learn to be a hypnotist?
So the story I like to tell people is I was abducted by aliens and then came back down with these
that old
magical powers.
You told me that last time.
But yeah, so the truthful situation is it is just a set of techniques that anyone can learn. Obviously, not everyone's going to be any good at it, but anyone can learn the fundamentals of it. And the terrifying thing was when I first learnt it. There's two elements to it. There's the psychological bit, and then there's the physical bit, the actual motions and movements that you take somebody through to hypnotize them. So if you've seen a hypnotist before, that might be having them fall backwards to the stage. I practiced the physical motions of it, in other words, what to do to make sure somebody doesn't fall and crack their head open, but without practicing the psychological bit. So when I did my first ever show, I knew I could drop a guy to the floor and that wasn't going to be a problem, and I could do all the things I needed to do, but I didn't actually know whether the hypnotism bit would work. I had no evidence, because I'd never done it. I had no evidence that
there comes a time where you have to try it for the first time.
Yeah, and that requires a guinea pig.
Yes.
And so I couldn't do it on my friends and family because they all knew I'd just learnt it. And so that wasn't going to, oh, come on then. Come on, Rob, sit down, try and hypnotise us.
What a terrifying prospect.
Yeah, so I went out on stage at a pub in Gosforth and the Brandling, whatever it was called.
Is it the Brandling Arms?
The Brandling Villa, I think it was called at the time,
right,
yeah.
okay.
Went out on stage and did my first ever show, age 16 and a half.
Good grief.
I don't think, unless he's listening to this now, I don't think he will know that that was my first ever show because I don't think I told anyone.
Well, you're not going to do that, really, are you?
No, I just positioned it. I've done this thousands of times. I never said that.
And did it go all right, Rob, that first
show? It did,
show?
yeah. I was terrified. There was a few local hypnotists that sort of caught wind of the show was happening, and they came in and watched it and gave me some really nice feedback. But yeah, the show went really well. I did another one in Gateshead in Wickham, and they both booked me back later to go and do another show. I did that one for free, just because I thought, well, if it doesn't work, then at least they haven't paid me anything. And yeah.
And this is how many years ago? 10 years ago or something
13.
Right. And now look at you, with your red hair.
With my bright red hair. I didn't have that then.
How long have you had the bright red hair?
I think it was about 19.
Is that part of the act?
I think I was about 19. And do you know what happened? I was doing a show and somebody came up to me and said, oh, I saw a hypnotist once. And I said, oh, who was it? And they said, I have no idea. He was a fat bloke with a moustache. And I thought, oh, doesn't really narrow it down. So I said, so I thought, wouldn't it be good if I could have something different about me? So that was what it was.
And that's why you dyed your hair bright red.
Yeah. And I've had it ever since. And I don't know, it's become a branding thing now. It gets to be recognised on the
What
street.
do people say that, strangers that meet you that have no idea that you do this for a job, when you tell them with your red hair that this is what you do for a job, are people surprised?
I would say, yeah, a lot of people think I'll be in a band or something. A bit more mainstream. A punk band, maybe.
That's quite cool.
Yeah.
So what does he do in his show? More with Rob Temple in 10 minutes here on BBC Newcastle. I've never seen Top Gun, no? Heard that for 30 years as well. Obviously something wrong with me. I need to be hypnotised into watching them. Hey, my guest today, as if by magic, is top hypnotist Mr. Rob Temple on the show, who appears at Tyne Theatre tomorrow. Are you one of these hypnotists who just makes fun of people?
I don't see it as making fun of people. I see it as giving people an opportunity to express their own creativity. So it's a bit like the karaoke syndrome. People love to get up and sing karaoke, even when they know they're tone deaf and they can't sing a tune. Now, of course, sometimes you discover somebody and you think, "Wow, you should be winning the TV competitions and things." But most of the time, people get up and you think, "Oh my lord, why do you think this is good?" And the truth, and that's me, I can't sing for toffee. But people like to have that opportunity to express themselves, and it's the same with hypnotism. Really, people are volunteering, so we don't pick on anyone who doesn't want to be hypnotized. They get up of their own free will. They can choose to stop taking part at any point if it gets too much, I guess. And it's an opportunity for them to become a star for those 1,000 people or whatever in the audience at that moment in time.
Can everybody be hypnotised, or are some people immune to it?
So everyone can be hypnotised, because everyone gets hypnotised twice a day. Once when you wake up in the morning and once when you go to bed on a night time. Or if you're driving somewhere and you think, oh, I didn't pass that round. Oh, I did pass that roundabout.
Oh, don't. I do that all the time, Rob.
Well, that's a hypnosis state.
Oh,
that's
don't.
all it is. That's all it is.
But it's terrible. It's dangerous.
But it's not, because your mind is so used to usually to you doing that journey that it just goes into what we consider to be autopilot mode. That's it.
Yes.
That's all hypnosis is. So we take that state. It's the same state that you're in when you have a dream on a night time, and you can put people into that state and then amplify it. But it's not about my ability to hypnotize somebody. It's actually about their ability to be hypnotized and to get into that state.
But can you spot someone that can't be hypnotised? Can you spot?
So usually the only thing that would stop you from being able to be hypnotized is if you actively fight against it. So if you actively sit there with arms crossed and say, this isn't going to work
is rubbish,
on me,
it's not going to work on me,
then
blah,
you'll
blah,
stop
blah.
yourself, as you would with anything.
Interesting. And then you pick people out and people come on the stage, and you'll be doing this on Friday, won't you?
Friday, yeah, the 10th.
This is Robert Temple's The Hypnotist live show at 8 o'clock at the beautiful Tyne Theatre.
It
Which
is.
I'm sure you've played many times before.
I think this is my 5th or 6th visit there. It's such a gorgeous theatre. And, yeah, amazing place to be. I love it.
Have you ever hypnotised someone without their knowing?
Every single night, and don't let this scare you off, everyone. Every single night, somebody goes to sleep, trance in the audience. And my stage manager has to run round into the audience, and he's trained in hypnosis and has to deal with it.
And that's from your making, is it?
Yeah. So basically, what's happened is they're sat in the audience and they're thinking about volunteering. And then
You scared me a bit
and
here.
then they bottle it at the last minute and say, "Oh, do you know what? I'm just going to watch it. Maybe I'll volunteer next time." And because they're thinking about it, it sort of planted the seed, and then that's enough to sort of.
I'm not looking at you in the eyes anymore. Do you meet a lot of people who think the whole thing's a load of nonsense? And,
Yes.
People are very dismissive and say, well, a load of rubbish, it's absolute rubbish, blah, blah, blah. And yet here you are taking it very seriously indeed.
I like that, but I kind of invite it. One of the things I love about hypnosis is that when you go and see a magician, you know that it's tricks. You know you're not watching Harry Potter. So you know it's tricks. You know you might be amazed by it. Some people want to try and work out how it's done. With hypnosis, there's this real question in the world of, is it real or is it all a big con? Now,
It's a grey area,
I am
isn't it?
happy to sit here on the radio and say it is 100% real. But of course, I would say that because that's what I do. But I don't really care if people don't believe me as long as they've had a good time. I like the mysticism around the fact that it could all be a big trick. It could all be a big con. It's not. Could be.
BBC Newcastle, radio for the North East.